Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm your host, Juliet Clark, and we have a really interesting guest today. I'm super excited to talk to him. But before we get going, I want to remind you guys to go over to YouTube and subscribe to us at Superbrand Publishing. All of these interviews, if you're listening on iTunes, you can go over there and actually see the videos and how everybody looks and they come off. Are they funny looking? Are they real? No, they're all real people. I'm just kidding you. But go over there and subscribe. And don't forget to take the Promote, Profit, Publish quiz. Find out if you are putting the right steps in the right order before you publish your book, gathering your audience, all those things you're supposed to do. You can find that at www.promoteprofitpublishquiz.com. So today's guest, we're going to have a little chat about something that might be a bit of a belief buster for some of you guys. Many of us have been raised with a work ethic that it's hard work. It's hard work that makes us successful. It's hard work that makes us abundant. But where does that hard work take us? Many years ago, I was a real estate broker in Valencia, California. And I remember I wanted nothing more than to be the number one listing agent in the whole company. There were 400 agents. And I worked my rear end off that year. And as a sidebar, I worked my rear end off to the point that I actually worked myself out of my marriage as well. So there were really some downsides to what I was working for. But then I remember awards night, I hit it, I got it, and I thought, well, that was disappointing. And I really, really was disappointing. It wasn't all it was cracked up to be, and I wasn't as profitable as I thought I would be after working so very hard. So today's guest is Derek Loudermilk, and he's a former pro cyclist and extreme microbiologist. I love this because I have a Bachelor of Science too, turned professional adventure, author, and lifestyle entrepreneur. Derek Loudermilk is the creator of LEAP, which is a system for quantum entrepreneurs. And it's actually LEAP, the acronym. His business coaching process incorporates the Thought Leaders MBA, the adventure mindset, the energy experience, and peak performance. Derek is the host and creator of the Derek Loudermilk show. Loudermilk. Oh my gosh, do you get that a lot?
I do it myself.
That's so funny. Sorry, you guys. Derek Loudermilk Show and the Art of Adventure podcast. As an international speaker and trainer, Derek regularly presents on topics such as spirituality, human potential, skill mastery, adventure, charisma, and confidence. Derek has visited over 40 countries and all of the 50 states in the U.S. He's been a location independent for 6 years and travels the world with his wife and 2 young children. They have lived in 15 different countries as a family. As the founder of Adventure Quest, Derek leads entrepreneurs and thought leaders in a transformative adventure experiences all over the world. That is so much, Derek, and welcome. Whether you're a loudmouth or a loud milk, we welcome you heartily. And
thank you.
I'm really excited to talk about this topic because when you brought it up, it is so true. What are we doing? How are we letting this busy, hard work get in the way of our abundance?
And as you were reading all these things that I'm doing, I'm like, oh my gosh, am I actually walking my talk? It sounds like I'm really busy. But a lot of people, and this happens, I used to be there, and a lot of my clients work from this place where they hustle and grind. And you even see a lot of people, Gary Vaynerchuk, they're like, you gotta, work till your eyeballs bleed and 15-hour days and all these things. And that is working backwards because you need to first, so most people think you have to do all these things. You have to hustle and grind, and then you'll get something. So you'll get 7 figures, or you'll get recognized, you'll be the first in your real estate office, or whatever it is, and you'll get the relationship you always wanted. And then you will be happy, and then you'll be satisfied, then you'll be successful, or whatever it is. And like that story you were telling, doing all those things doesn't change who you are. And ultimately we're chasing a feeling. we're doing things because we want to feel a certain way. So if we start with just being the person we need to be and feeling the way we want to feel, then it's just a natural thing for us to do the things we need to do. So for example, if you want to be a non-smoker, let's say, if your identity, if you in your core, in your identity are a non-smoker, then it's not any work not to smoke. But if you in your identity are a smoker, then it's really, really hard to not smoke. And so it's the identity level, it's who you are that leads to all the doingness. And so it's a much more effective way of getting results in your life. If you ask yourself a question, who do I need to be to get what I want? Or who would I be if I already had what I want?
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And, I think for a lot of us, we were raised with a work ethic that really let us believe that if we had those lists of tasks, we were going to get more. So tell me if you agree with this or not. Remember you actually see a lot of coaches when they first start out. And I always relate this to they quit their job, they're giving themselves high fives, they show up at their desk the first day and they're super excited, like, I can do this. And somewhere around, I would say month 4, they're working 12-hour days, they haven't showered. I mean, even the dog is looking at them like, dude, shower. And they realize that they've gotten in that grind where they didn't realize that being an entrepreneur meant that there were so many things they have to do, and then they're not delegating. They're not doing the things that are going to make their lives easier. Would you agree with that? Do you see that quite a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've fallen into this myself. And sometimes I still catch myself trying to just, at 10 at night, and I'm like, okay, if I could just do these a little bit more, then I'll set myself up. And it's a trap that you fall into. And So people, if they try to do it all themselves, that's a recipe for burnout, and that happens so often. And a lot of people think about investing money or investing in various other things, real estate or something like that. But a lot of people don't think about investing in time. And whether you're building a systematized way of doing business that's going to save you time, or you're hiring someone, or you're stopping doing something that's less effective, all those ways are ultimately going to give you more time, which is sort of the only finite quality. You can earn infinite amount of money, but you can't get infinite time. And so time is going to be your highest leverage thing. And when you are working, when you are hustling, if you make sure that's your highest value activity, but you have to have time to understand what is going to be your highest value activity. And sometimes you even have to align your own values with your highest economic value activity. Because even if you don't like it, or if it's, if it's number 11 out of your values, then it's going to be hard. You're going to have to be using willpower and all these things to bring yourself to do it. So you want to make sure you're doing high economic productive things that are also easy and aligned with sort of who you are, what you like to do, what your natural tendencies are, and all those things, so that it doesn't actually feel like work at all.
Right. So delegating those things to people around you that are better and actually working in your zone of genius would probably be another way to describe that is, because here's one thing that all entrepreneurs hate, or most of them do. I personally don't. I love this part, but generating leads. People it's salesy. I don't like it. It's necessary. Nobody's going to hand you a paycheck like they do in corporate America. It's necessary for you to do that. But the question is, do you do it yourself or does somebody else? So how do you sit down and really put in your space those things that you are really good at and delegate those things that you're not? How would you go about that?
Well, one thing that I think is important to remember is that sometimes you may end up being really good at a key skill that you haven't mastered yet. So let's assume that you can learn any entrepreneurial skill you need to. It's all trainable. You can get better at it. And if you're a beginner entrepreneur, you might not have great copywriting, or you might not have as good of networking skills. And so, if you decide that a specific skill is important for the long-term success of your business, I'm never going to outsource copywriting. I'm always going to be the one doing my marketing and my ads and my emails and stuff, then I need to master this skill. And then you become the person that's focused on marketing mastery. You live like a master marketer would. You pay attention to the new things that are coming out. You study it. You understand where the field is. But if the skill is not going to be that important, then don't bother with it. Because there's too many skills for you to sort of master all of them. Mm-hmm. So pick the ones. Like if you're going to be a coach, a speaker, an author, you need to be good at writing. You need to be good at storytelling. You need to be good at interacting with people. So understanding body language and persuasion and all that stuff. Maybe you don't need to worry about internet marketing at all. And you can outsource that. So you need to just sort of look down your career and figure out what the skills are and then become insanely good at them.
Yes, but you just brought up a great point there. So we're in this age right now where most people are coming in and they're saying, okay, I need to be an internet marketer. And I think the truth of today is you need mild internet marketing skills, but people are looking for relationships. And clicks aren't relationships. So I think the challenge is, how do you know where your business fits in that? And are you actually looking at the products that will help your business? Because I don't know, I've been around long enough to know that, for me, I'm relationship based. So those clicks and ads and all that probably aren't going to bring me what I need. What about you? Because you're really focused in on, relationships as well.
Yeah. And I like to tell people that you can have a business without a website or social media. You can have a 7-figure business just from your relationships. And that's how they did it before there was the internet. And that's still totally possible. And it's just, it's one of the avenues of marketing, right? Word of mouth is great. Recommendations, asking for referrals. And if you have a few good high value relationships, that can fuel your business for years. Mm-hmm. And there's also relationships, as I was actually sort of alluding to before we started recording. Relationships open the doors to abundance that's much bigger than money. So a lot of people focus on money as their primary, like, if I have money, then I feel abundant. Mm-hmm. And they're missing 80 or 90% of abundance. And I define abundance as being, you can do what you need to do when you need to do it. And when you think about it like that, well, money can sometimes do that. It can often do that. But you could just have somebody gift you a service instead of paying for it. Well, that does the exact same thing. It gets you exactly where you need to go. Or you could trade with somebody. You could just swap with no exchange of money. You could, like two coaches could coach each other, right? Two authors could edit each other's books. But there's also creativity and good ideas, right? A better solution may save you tons of money and tons of time. So it'll actually get you closer to where you want to go. There's, relationships get you access to information that helps you along the way. And people, when you focus on relationships, they can get you better opportunities that money could never get you access to. Like, you can't pay to get the chance to be on Shark Tank. Well, maybe you can, but I don't know, because I've heard people can pay to get on the New York Times bestseller list or something like that.
Well, they do. Most of them do pay.
Yeah, but it would be, right? So then you're like, oh, it's either $500,000 to be a New York Times bestseller, or just your friend can help you make the connections and whatever it needs to be. So there's multiple different ways to do what you need to do when you need to do it. And that's the sort of the full picture of abundance. And of course, relationships, people can become clients. People can become, a raving referral source. Mm-hmm. They can get you access to money, but abundance is so much more than that. And it's important to keep that in mind.
I agree with that. And the other thing is being really intent on what you want, because I often find that if I set a goal and I write it down and I say, you know what, where am I going to find this? throughout my travels, usually with those not referral partners, but those people that are in my network, something will land in my lap within a week or two. It's like, oh, that's where I go to get that. And then asking for those introductions. So you really have to be on the lookout for those kinds of things where, you know what you want, and then watch it. I mean, I literally, Derek, I just watch it drop into my lap like, oh my gosh, I just wrote that down the other day. So I think that is part of that abundance equation too, is being very intentional about what it is you need.
Yes. And I love that, it drops into your lap and it comes in an unexpected way. Sometimes you don't necessarily specify it's going to be this person who's going to do this, or it's going to look exactly like this. But when it comes and you know it and you can recognize it, then that's amazing. So I actually have 3 questions that I'll share that when I'm talking to someone in my network, first I'm always asking them, what are you up to? How can I help? I'm trying to get a sense for where my abilities line up with what they're looking for. So starting with being of service, but then also asking them for ideas like, hey, here's what I'm working on. Here's where I'm trying to go. Do you have any ideas for me? And do you have anyone you think I should talk to? And then it enlists them with their creativity to help you out. People like, that's a pretty easy way to be helpful. Oh, maybe you should talk to Joe over at such and such publishing company. Well, great. If nothing comes of it, that's fine. But it's continuing that momentum towards where I think I'm headed. And you're totally right. Knowing where you're headed, and I believe probably you have success with having these things fall into your lap, because not only do you know where you're headed, like what the end result is, but you have a sense of what it will feel like for you to be there. And going back to the identity, it's important to have like a strong emotional tie to where you're going, because that means it's really yours. It's you're the one who wants to go that way. Whether you've like heard a podcast saying like you should be an author, seems like a good idea, maybe let's do it. If you have no emotional connection to it, then it's just somebody else's good idea, but it's not really yours. And when you make it yours, then you have the sort of energetic oomph behind it to actually sort of have these things drop into your lap.
Well, yeah, and that energetic oomph that you mentioned too. Don't be really like, this is one of the things I'm really firm about is I'm not connected to or looking for an outcome when I refer people, because I'm a really good connector, and I never say like, Derek, I gave you 3 leads last month. Where are my 3 leads? I always assume when I connect those people that somewhere connections will drop in my lap and not worry about it. And I know a lot of people get really invested in that. Well, I did this for you. And I think you really have to let that go energetically to have good things happen.
I've come the whole way. I was an only child. I used to be a taker. Adam Grant's book, Give and Take. I was just like, everybody just gives me everything I want. And so I don't even need to be a matcher. And then I realized, then I sort of progressed in my university days to like, okay, we're going to like, I'm going to give stuff to you and you give stuff to me. But there's that sort of unwritten expectation of like, are you going to give me something back? Like, I hope, I'm keeping tally of what you owe me in my mind, but you don't even know what you owe me. And that gets messy. Yeah. But there's a fundamental law of the universe, which is you get back what you put out. Whether it's helping someone in business or love or respect or any of these things, it comes back to you, the golden rule, however you want to interpret it. And therefore, it's highly strategic to just give a lot away. And then you don't have to specify exactly how it's going to come back. But the more you give, the more it will come back.
Yes, no, I completely agree with that, because I think it comes back to you in unexpected ways. I remember when that divorce I was talking about, I had a really tough time, and I asked a friend if she could help me, and she brought herself, she brought a couple other friends, and I'm like, why are you all here? And they were like, you don't even realize how much you've done for us. And I never even thought of it like, oh, I've done stuff for you guys. Like what? But when you're in that mode, things show up at the most unexpected times when you need help. So I think that's really a big piece of abundance as well, is just, letting go of that. You were talking about letting go of that money piece. it's not all abundance. So there you go.
There's something I want to share here, because sometimes people have a hard time with knowing what to give, especially if they're networking with someone who's more experienced or successful or farther down the career road. They think, what do I have to be able to offer to somebody? And so, obviously my favorite is making introductions, finding a win-win situation and introducing people in your network. But there's a bunch more things, right? There's ideas. You can give good ideas to people. Mm-hmm. You can listen. You can be a listener. You can just reflect for somebody. I know one of my mentors is an education thought leader, and he would just spend time having lunch with a brand new principal. He was like at the end of his career and having lunch regularly with someone at the beginning of the career, and they would just sort of listen to each other, and that was really valuable for both of them, even though one of them had way more experience and PhDs and all that stuff. Can you let me see if you can come up with a couple, like, what are other ways that you like to add value to people when you're doing relationship building? He's
interviewing me now, you guys. So one of the ways, I reached out to you on LinkedIn, and I have that LinkedIn automation I do. And here's one of the things. Most people go out and they try to sell you something. I just want to get on the phone and meet people. Like, what are you up to? How can, and so for me, that's sort of it, is just, I guess, that listening piece and getting to know people, because I feel like I have to walk that walk with the relationship building. Tips and tricks. The referrals. Mm-hmm. I love giving people referrals. I had a guy, I'm going to share yesterday from LinkedIn. He jumped on a call with me and he tried to sell me and give him stuff for free. He wanted me to, do something for his nonprofit for free. And I said, you know what, I can't do this, but I can introduce you to another nonprofit that's doing something similar. So just I think that's the biggest, is making those introductions to people that will help them refine what they need to do and get a little bit further, because it's all about networking. So I hope that answered your question, or was that really evasive?
No, that was good. Let's just, and then a couple more just popped into me, because so talking about LinkedIn, right? You can recommend somebody for a skill on LinkedIn,
right?
Or you can review their book on Amazon, or review their podcast, or subscribe to it. These are like very small little things. Again, Adam Grant calls them 5-minute favors. It takes almost no time for you, but it really helps somebody out. So looking for opportunities to do 5-minute favors. A lot of times I'll even just send people wow, I watched your YouTube video on blank and I learned blank and it was amazing, and here's what I'm going to go do with it. Keep going. Like, I love what you're doing. And I almost always get a response. Somebody that has 10 million subscribers, they respond to me because I'm not asking anything of them. I'm just like sending them good vibes their way. So there's a lot of different ways you can add value, even if you're not sure, even if you feel like somebody is more successful than you can still add value to them.
You can. And I just thought of another, you guys. You probably don't know this about me. I'm the queen of thank you notes. So I love the old-fashioned writing. I've got like tons and tons. I love Paper Source, by the way. I have tons. When I get on the phone with people, and mostly it's from LinkedIn, and they've given me something really valuable, but maybe they didn't purchase from me, or they weren't a really good podcast guest, I try to follow up and write thank you notes so that, they feel like I really valued their time. So that's another thing you can do is, take the time to do something old-fashioned like that. And I actually got that idea because someone saw, it's fun when you said YouTube video, someone saw a YouTube video. She's locally here in Utah, and I was brand new to the area. And she wrote me this amazing thank you note. It was like a thank you and welcome to Utah. We can really use people like you. And I thought, oh my gosh, I love that. Now I'm going to do it for other people. So there's something you can do too.
Phenomenal. Yeah. I was on a podcast last week, and the guy, he sent me a custom made bracelet. It had one of the words we talked about on the show, and he stamped it into the bracelet and mailed it to me. And it came yesterday, and I was just blown away. I'll always remember this guy,
That is so cool. I want a bracelet. Who was that? No.
Yeah, well, I'll connect you with them.
Exactly. I need a new bracelet. No, see, you guys, there's so many ways we can do that. So Derek also, I'm going to bring this up. Derek puts together anthologies for people. So tell us a little bit about that, because that's sort of how I got connected to him. Was we own a publishing company, but we don't typically put together anthologies like you do. We're solo entrepreneur authors.
Yeah, and we're actually doing volume 3 of this series now. It's become a series called Activate Your Life. And the way that it started was I have a lot of friends who are amazing coaches, and I would have them come be guest presenters at my retreats, or even, just hire them. And they had all these creative ways of teaching and getting you to experience a transformative a process. So all these coaches, they pioneered their processes, and I wanted to get those out to the world. And I also knew that, having someone become a best-selling author is still one of these big, sort of social proof of credibility. Like it's, when you're a best-selling author, it does a lot for mainstream credibility. And so I was like, okay, let's combine these. I want to get these exercises out for people. And so they're compilation of coaching exercises that somebody can work through on their own, or another coach could take and use with their clients. And so this is the 3rd year we've been doing it. Typically we have 30 to 50 authors. And so the launching of the book and the marketing is really fun. We typically do like a bunch of Facebook Lives or interview exchanges to like build momentum for the book. So we're all, imagine 50 people sharing their audience with 50 other people. It's a big fun process. And it also, on my end, like seeing, because I've done both. I've sort of self-published books, and I've worked with traditional publishers on solo projects. And it's to understand like everything that needs to be done with the formatting and the cover design and getting it uploaded, and just managing the project of a book helps you when you're writing your own books as well. Mm-hmm. And many of these coaches, they go on to become solo authors. They kind of dip their toe in, they write a chapter for our book, and the next year they're like, I'm ready to write my own book, and they go and do it. And it's amazing sort of introduction, showing them how it's actually quite possible and easy to write your own book. It's not as scary as it was before. So it's just a fun project all the way around.
Yeah. And you know what I love you just had to say was one of the reasons I started my company was that I had worked in traditional publishing. And I think there are so many self-publishing companies out there that really are so hands-off with people. It's just give me your stuff and I'll make it into a manuscript and a cover. And really working with someone on a bestseller, launch is a much better way to get to know people and build relationships. But it also, being on the inside like this, helps you help them understand what self-publishing should be. And it shouldn't be this disjointed, give me your stuff, I'll give you a product type of thing. It needs to build into a relationship and helping them build their own audience. So I love that you do. I love that you've been on both sides of that as well, and understand that. Although you were there from the author side, I was there on the actually publishing side. So, but that's a good thing with it is being able to build those differences so that it sets your company apart.
Yeah, and authors, we charge a small investment to be part of the book that covers the cost of our team. And people sort of ask, what's in it for me, or what's the ROI on this? It's a $500 investment. I become a published author, but really, how does it help me? Mm. And so working with them, like how does this exercise fit in with? Are you creating online courses, or are you are you building credibility to raise your rates to premium as a coach, or are you hoping to get more sort of keynote speaking? And so we tailor how does a book fit into the bigger picture of the various ways that you teach and train. And I think a lot of people that helps a lot of people just sort of understand, a book is one good sort of pillar in a multi-pillared sort of branding strategy.
Yeah. And we're pretty honest here about you will not probably get direct ROI from the book. It's what you do with the book that builds the ROI. And you just mentioned a lot of those things. That's why we put the quiz together, because we have to be really intentional about talking to people and driving that audience, not only for that bestseller, but what is it you're doing for the book? Because I think too many people write a book because they don't have enough business. And so we kind of go back and fix what's going on with that not enough business in the process of the book, because my vision is you should write a book because you have a validated process, not because you're using the book solely to get more business because you haven't been getting enough business without the book. So it's kind of a catch-22 there, but you have to learn to go back and build and figure out why you weren't getting what you wanted before the book. I hope that made sense to all you guys, but
yeah. And what I see with these authors, and I saw with myself, is that when forced to articulate your exercise, maybe you've been teaching it with your clients, but you've never written it down or something.
Yeah.
Then you're like, oh, how do I communicate this succinctly and clearly? And what's the most sort of direct and effective way to do this? And when I wrote my first book, Superconductors, that was, so here's an example of some guest of my podcast was like, you should turn all these podcasts into a book. And I was like, that sounds super easy. I'll do it. And then it took me 2 years to actually figure out how to put all these ideas together. But I was basically teaching myself my own method through that process. I was teaching, how am I going to make people superconductors? And that became the sort of the basis of my coaching. And so it's there's this famous Mark Twain quote, "How will I know what I think until I see what I say?"
Oh,
and I absolutely love it, because whether it's you're writing a book or even guesting on a podcast, when you articulate what you're trying to say, and maybe over and over again, then it comes off as easily understandable, and you can start to see how people are responding, and does it make sense, and is it, because ultimately we're trying to help people. We're trying to take concepts that we have and get them across, like through these words or through, the written word or the spoken word, and then they have to assimilate it. Then they have to understand and apply it to their life. And there's all these steps, and we're just trying to expand people's possibilities and help them feel alive through words. And so this is it's such a good way of refining that.
It is. And with Pitch Slapped, I know you guys have seen my book, Pitch Slapped. I actually wrote mystery novels. And when I put that together, it also took me 2 years, because I took a year-long course and I thought, I can't put all of this into a book. So we had to go through and figure out what are the key points that people need to understand. And I was sort of surprised myself, because I started out with a ghostwriter, and she went through my course, and the thing was huge. And I ended up going back and doing, rewrite after rewrite to condense it. So that quote is perfect for that, because when I could say, I could see what I was putting out there, I was like, yeah, that's not going to do it. That's like 5 books there. And people won't read that much. And you have to keep in mind these days that people like short books. They have no attention span these days. So it is what it is. So Derek, where can we find you if we want to know more about what you're up to and the anthologies?
Yeah, so DerekLoudermilk.com and the Derek Loudermilk Show. That's my podcast and sort of central place where you can find me. And then the book is Activate Your Life. Actually, you can check it out on Amazon. It's on Kindle, and you can get a print copy. And then ActivateYourLifeBook.com. You can see all the anthologies. If you want to apply to be in Volume 3, you can do that there as well. So if you're a coach or a healer, or this year we're having a more of a spiritual focus for the book, because I think that will really help sort of the world's progress, figuring out what we want this world to look like. So that's kind of the intent behind this Volume 3, is how to help people create the world that we all want together. So if you want to be part of that, you could apply at activateyourlifebook.com.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being on today.
Juliet, thanks for having me. It was fun.